On December the 25th, 2003, emergency personnel responded to a call for medical assistance at the residence of Mary Deleon. When emergency personnel arrived at the residence, they found her 4-year-old grandson, Jovonie Ochoa, lying on the floor without a pulse and not breathing. Emergency personnel attempted to revive Jovonie, but the rescue efforts were unsuccessful. Jovonie was pronounced dead at the hospital a short while later. Deleon was charged with the offenses of injury to a child, unlawful restraint, and endangering a child. After an autopsy revealed Jovonie died of long-term starvation. The arrest warrant for this case states that Jovonie was severely malnourished and was skin and bones. It indicates that he was lying on his back for several weeks before his death, and the contents of his stomach revealed very little other than what appeared to be curdled milk. In the last statements of the warrant, it lists both his uncle and his grandmother for taping Jovonie's hands and feet, him repeatedly. Now, there's many suspects in this case, so let me tell you right now who is who. Jovian is the victim. Mary Deleon is his grandmother. Liza is Jovian's mother and Mary's daughter. Dolores Esqueda is Mary's daughter and Jovian's aunt. And finally, Geronimo Esqueda is Jovian's uncle. Now, in the trial, the records showed that the state presented 8 witnesses. The state's first witness was Craig Allen, an emergency medical technician. He testified he was dispatched to the residence on December the 25th, 2003 at 4 a.m. to respond to a cardiac arrest in progress. Upon his arrival at the scene, he observed Jovonie lying on his back on a hallway floor. Allen stated Jovonie looked like a skeleton with skin. Allen stated the child had no pulse and was not breathing. Although he thought Jovonie was deceased, he attempted to resuscitate the child. Allen further stated he tried to secure information from Deleon regarding Jovonie's name, age, and medical history as he tried to revive the boy. According to Allen, Deleon told him she did not know any of the requested information concerning the child. A second emergency medical technician, David Watterson, also testified at trial. He stated he was part of a second team of medical technicians dispatched to Deleon's residence. After Watterson was initially dispatched to the residence, he was notified that someone from the residence had called and cancelled the request for medical assistance because everything was okay. Before returning to a station, however, Watterson was notified that a pediatric arrest had in fact occurred at Deleon's residence and his unit needed to respond. Watterson arrived at the house with his partner and began to assist the other medical technicians in their effort to resuscitate Jovonie. He testified Jovonie looked like one of the individuals who were in the concentration camps during World War II. Wow. Watterson, like Allen, stated Deleon would not provide technicians with any information concerning Jovonie. Finally, Watterson stated Jovonie was taken to a hospital and pronounced dead at 5 a.m. on December 25th, 2003. Now, Bexar County Sheriff's Deputy Brian Stack testified that he was dispatched to the residence on December 25th. He stated he observed Jovonie lying on the floor and receiving aid from medical personnel when he arrived at the scene. The officer testified Jovonie reminded him of Holocaust victims. He stated Jovonie's legs were extremely thin. The joints, the knees, the elbows looked to be about the size of tennis balls perched on the top of toothpicks. The head looked out of proportion to the size of the body. The officer testified that Deleon told him Jovonie's mother, Liza, dropped the boy off at her house at 7 p.m. on December 24th. Liza, the mother, was a heroin addict. Upon seeing Jovonie's physical condition, Deleon allegedly asked Jovonie's mother about the boy's health and was told Jovonie was under a doctor's care and not to worry about it. Deleon told the officer that nothing unusual happened with respect to Jovonie that evening. The officer stated that Jovonie allegedly played with his sisters, opened Christmas presents, and fell asleep at 10 p.m. Now, Deleon indicated that her family called for medical assistance as soon as they discovered Jovonie unresponsive. A second officer, Alfred Damiani, testified he was assigned to investigate the cause of Jovonie's death. According to Damiani, Deleon provided investigators with a written statement concerning the events surrounding Jovonie's death. Officer Damiani was permitted to read the statement during the trial. I'm going to read that statement to you now. I am the grandmother of Jovonie Ochoa. I believe he was the son of my son. I always treated him like he was my grandson. Yesterday evening, December 24th at 7 p.m., Liza Ochoa came to my home on Potter Valley. She arrived with Jovonie and his sisters. She was also with her lover. All Liza told me that she needs to drop off the children. She didn't say for how long or where she was going. When I saw Jovonie, I was concerned right away. When Liza brought Jovonie to the house, I didn't want to keep him because of his condition. He was skinny. He was skin and bones. When my daughter, Dolores, saw Jovonie, she asked Liza why he was so thin. Liza told her that Jovonie eats, but he doesn't gain weight. Anyway, my husband didn't want me to take Jovonie because of the way he was, but I decided to take him anyway. I thought I would let him stay over the weekend and then call child services on Monday. Jovonie stayed to play with the other kids, and after a while, he got a Christmas present and continued to play. A little later, I fed Jovonie about half a package of crackers. I put Jovonie to bed around midnight. He said he was tired. When he went to bed, he looked fine to me. At some point during the night, I checked on Jovonie because I was going to move him to another bed. When I did, I noted that he was moaning in his sleep. I called my daughter, Dolores, for her to come and check on Jovonie. She said he wasn't breathing. Dolores called 911 and they told her to give Jovonie mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. While Dolores did that, I went outside and waited for the ambulance so they would be able to find us easily. When the ambulance arrived, they started working on Jovonie and they took him to the hospital. Last time that I had seen Jovonie was during the summer. When I saw him, he was just as thin as he was last night. In addition to being thin, he also had bruises on his face and forehead. They were not recent, they were yellow, like they were going away. That's all I know about the situation. I will cooperate in this investigation. Now, Officer Damiani testified he concluded that Jovonie's death was caused by starvation. He further testified his investigation led him to believe Jovonie had lived with Deleon since October 2003. The officer noted, however, that Jovonie may have started living with Deleon as early as August. Another police officer, Jesse Padilla, testified he helped execute a search warrant on the residence. He stated he searched the child's bedroom and observed the remains of fresh duct tape on the railings of a bunk bed in the room. Officer Padilla stated he also found a cloth cord tied to the railing of the bunk bed. Now, Escada, the other daughter, also testified during the case. She testified the first time she saw Jovonie was at a birthday party for her daughter in August 2003. She stated Jovonie came with Deleon and appeared skinny but kind of healthy. She further stated her sister Dolores had told her that Jovonie was living with Deleon at the time of the party. When Maria Escada asked Deleon whether Jovonie was residing with her, Deleon responded that he was not. Escada testified she visited Deleon's home approximately every 2 weeks. She stated she would see Jovonie every once in a while when she was at the residence. She testified she believed Jovonie was living with Deleon during that period because Jovonie had a duffel bag of clothes at the residence. She stated she confirmed her belief in October 2003 when she heard Deleon tell Jovonie's mother, Liza, that she would take custody and care of Jovonie. This is important, of course, because if Jovonie was staying with his grandmother, Deleon, well then she is culpable for his starvation and death. Escada indicated she confronted Deleon regarding Jovonie's health after one of her visits to Deleon's home because she noticed Jovonie looked very skinny. According to Escada, Deleon indicated that Jovonie was sick and that she could not afford to take him to the hospital. In addition, Deleon indicated that she could not bring the child to the hospital because she was not Jovonie's parent. Escada testified she would secretly try to feed Jovonie when she would visit the boy at Deleon's house because the child was always hungry. She stated she did not tell Deleon if she fed Jovonie because Deleon would get mad. When Deleon became aware that Escada was feeding the boy, Deleon would chastise her for feeding Jovonie too much because the boy would throw it up. Escada further noted that Deleon refused to allow Jovonie outside to play when he was under her care. Escada stated she witnessed an alarming event at Deleon's house sometime during the month of October 2003. She said she discovered Deleon in a bedroom binding Jovonie with duct tape when she arrived at the residence to visit Jovonie. Deleon told her that she was binding Jovonie because she was playing cops and robbers with the children. When Escada removed the tape from Jovonie's mouth and confronted Deleon about her treatment of Jovonie, Deleon responded by telling Escada, "It's none of your business, get out of my house." Escada returned to the residence approximately 2 or 3 weeks later. Unfortunately, when she came back, she again saw Jovonie with duct tape. This time, however, Deleon told Escada she was playing cowboys and Indians with the children. Deleon told her, "Shut up and mind your own business." Escada nevertheless advised Deleon to get Jovonie medical attention because Jovonie appeared even skinnier than he did on Escada's last visit. Deleon responded that she could not take Jovonie to the doctor because she lacked medical insurance. Escada offered to get Jovonie medical assistance, but Deleon refused. Escada returned to the residence the first weeks of December 2003 to determine what Jovonie wanted for Christmas. Deleon, however, refused to let Escada see Jovonie. Escada stated the last time she saw Jovonie was on December 24th, 2003, when he was lying on a bunk bed covered with a blanket. Deleon refused to let Escada remove the blanket or hold the boy. Escada noted that Jovonie looked the worst she'd ever seen him. Escada finally testified she received 2 phone calls from Deleon after she left the residence. During the first phone call, Deleon asked Escada to watch her nieces and nephews because Deleon needed to take Jovonie to the hospital as he was throwing up. During the second call, after Jovonie's death, Deleon told Escada that she knew she was going to jail and that investigators wanted to speak with Escada. Deleon also encouraged Escada not to tell the truth and to tell the cops that she got Jovonie on Christmas Eve. Now, Dr. Randall Frost, the Deputy Chief Medical Examiner for Bexar County, testified he was responsible for performing the autopsy. He stated stool cultures and blood spot tests showed Jovonie did not suffer from any metabolic diseases. Frost stated he also performed an internal and external examination of the body. The examination revealed Jovonie was extremely small and weighed only 15 pounds at the time of his death. 15 pounds? Wow. He looked very malnourished and had lost significant muscle mass throughout his body. Frost observed numerous abrasions and bruises all over Jovonie's body. He also noted that he found tape residue on the child's wrists. The internal examination found no fat on the child's body. The examination revealed no signs of disease, but did show Jovonie's thymus gland was abnormal. Frost stated an abnormally shrunken gland is indicative of long-term starvation. Based on his findings, Frost concluded Jovonie died as a result of long-term starvation and neglect. Now, the state's final witness, Dr. Nancy Kellogg, a professor of pediatrics at the University of Texas, she believed Jovonie died of long-term starvation. She stated Jovonie's appearance suggested he had been subjected to chronic severe stress, arising from months of starvation prior to his death. Kellogg said that the abrasions found on Jovonie's body may have been caused by duct tape. She stated the abrasions and other physical evidence in the case indicate Jovonie had been restrained for a prolonged period of time. Kellogg stated Jovonie did not suffer from any diseases that would have caused his death. Lastly, Kellogg stated Jovonie likely had no motor capabilities for at least several days before his death due to a lack of blood flow in his muscles. She believed he was simply physically unable to do anything in the days before his death, including eating, opening presents, and walking. Now, after the state rested, the defense recalled Escada to clarify parts of her testimony. The defense also recalled Esqueda to elicit testimony that Deleon was briefly incarcerated during October 2003. She stated that Deleon's husband, Juan Palacios, cared for Jovonie when Deleon was incarcerated. She further testified Deleon was primarily responsible for taking care of Jovonie when she was not incarcerated. Finally, Deleon herself testified on her own behalf. She said she was the individual responsible for caring for Liza's two daughters at the time of Esqueda's daughter's birthday party in August 2003. She claimed Jovonie was still living with his mother Liza at that time. Deleon testified that when she brought Jovonie to the birthday party, Jovonie was skinny and would fall down if he tried to run. Wow. Deleon stated she was concerned about Jovonie, but chose not to take him to the doctor. According to Deleon, Jovonie stayed with her for several days after the party. She saw Jovonie for a couple of days in September and did not see him again until October. She stated she was arrested in September 2003 for theft. She indicated she was incarcerated for around 2 weeks. 2 weeks? I've slept longer than 2 weeks. After her release from prison, Deleon did not see Jovonie until November. When Jovonie's mother dropped the boy off at the house for a few days, Deleon testified she was only responsible for caring for Jovonie and claimed that when he was at her house at the time of his death, Liza remained Jovonie's primary caretaker. According to Deleon, Jovonie appeared sick and did not eat well when he stayed. Deleon allegedly confronted Jovonie's mother about the child's health, but took no other action concerning the boy. She stated she saw Jovonie one other time between Thanksgiving and his death. Deleon noted Jovonie looked terrible by that time. On December the 24th, 2003, Jovonie's mother unexpectedly dropped Jovonie off at Deleon's residence. Deleon testified she did not want Jovonie to stay with her because he did not look good. But nevertheless, she let Jovonie stay because she had no other choice. When Liza dropped him off and left, Deleon fed Jovonie crackers since he did not want to eat the plate of food she had given the boy. Jovonie later sat with his sisters and looked at the Christmas tree. Deleon indicated Jovonie was able to move under his own volition that evening. Deleon stated she checked on Jovonie throughout the night after he fell asleep. According to Deleon, the call for medical assistance was done when she discovered Jovonie was not breathing. She testified she knew she was going to jail. She further testified that she neither starved Jovonie nor bound Jovonie to the bed. She also denied asking Esqueda to lie for her. She claimed the one mistake she made for the boy was not seeking help for him. Now, the trial did take a bit of a twist. You see, the daughter, Maria Esqueda, testified. She said she overheard a conversation between Deleon and Liza, where Deleon expressly agreed to take care of Jovonie and take custody of the boy. The record further reflects that from the time Deleon agreed to accept responsibility, Deleon carried herself like the child's caretaker. For example, Deleon was the individual who prohibited Esqueda from taking Jovonie to get medical attention, who had arguments with Esqueda for secretly feeding Jovonie, and who determined if and when Esqueda could visit Jovonie. It was believed Deleon's express promise to care for Jovonie, together with her words and actions following the promise to Jovonie's mother, would cause a reasonable person to conclude that Deleon accepted responsibility for protecting, feeding, and sheltering Jovonie. So, to conclude on the story, 4 people in total were charged with his death. The grandmother, Mary Deleon, was sentenced to life in prison. Her daughter, Dolores, and son, Geronimo Esqueda, were also charged. Dolores and Geronimo were sentenced to 10 years. Liza Ochoa pled guilty to endangering a child and was sentenced to 2 years in jail. To be fair, I don't think the custody in this case matters. I know it does in terms of who is most culpable, but at the end of the day, Liza, you knew your son needed help. You did not feed him also, you muppet. 2 years. You got away with this one. As for the grandmother, I don't know why you would treat your grandson that way. I have children. Both my children have a great relationship with their grandparents. It's vital. The support system's very important. As a father myself though, right, seeing my children, it fills me with joy. So I can only imagine the grandparents being filled with joy just as much, maybe more. I can only imagine how I will feel once my kids have kids. You can't help it but be like, wow, and be happy, right? So to treat your grandson that way, what the actual fuck? Anyway, comment. Tell me what you think.